The Lord will always lift you up in His strength when others tear you down. Born in Iran to an Iranian father and American mother, Moody Molavi found at an early age how to read the comedic moments in any situation. His family moved to the United States in 1981, where Moody used his funny personality to escape multitudes of adverse moments in his young life, bullying. Today, he's an award-winning comedian and is a tsunami on stage. His high energy and animated storytelling mannerisms are unforgettable, and his light shines bright for Jesus in a dark world. This is his story. This is today's Nashville. This is faith. Moody, you have been everywhere making people laugh. I just want to thank you so much for inviting me into your home and getting a chance to listen to your story.
Thank you for coming. It was a surprise that anybody wanted to come in here and talk.
You know, you have quite the past. You were born in Iran, and how in the world did you get to Nashville? Let's go back to your childhood and how you got here.
My mom is from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and she met my father in the 60s. He was an orthopedic surgeon. She was a nurse, and they hit it off and decided to go back to his place, you know, a quick 10,000-mile trip east. And that's where we were born. My brothers and I were born there. The Iranian Revolution broke out, and we were probably the last of those people to leave the country. And what people don't realize is we got here in 1981. We left there in 1979. So there's a gap, and that gap was filled with a route through Turkey into Greece, and we stayed there for a while. And then we went to Spain, and we went to a school that was 90 miles from this fishing village that we were living in. I got super sick. My oldest brother got super sick. Mom was a nurse. She nursed us back to health, and she's like, I can't do this anymore. You know, the Iran-Iraq War had broken out by then. So she's like, I'm going to take my kids to Chattanooga in 1981. So that was a wake-up call for everybody because I don't know if you know the 1981 stuff with Iran. Them bringing 3 Iranian baby boys to the South was a little different.
Now, how old were you?
I was 6 then.
6. So how has life been since then?
It's been interesting when you're an Iranian in the South. People immediately have that prejudice. You know, people don't want to call it prejudice, but you know, they judge you before they meet you. That's prejudging, and hey, that's prejudice, and that's what happens. So we came into the country. We didn't know anything about white Americana, Southern culture. We failed the entrance exam to the Lutheran school that my mom was trying to get us into. And they said, do you have cable? Because lots of foreign children have this problem. And so mom did what every mom would do, and she bought every single channel. And we saw all sorts of things that weren't never seen in Iran. And that's where I fell in love with comedy. So I figured if I could make people laugh, they would stop getting on to me that I was Iranian.
So you mentioned you were teased?
Yes. So we were, my brothers and I, we all had the same problem where people would look at us differently, and they would, again, prejudge us, and we would have the problems where we couldn't gain friendships very quickly, and we would have to, it was just a struggle because people didn't know what to do with us. So I started joking, and I started making people laugh, and that was the...
How old were you when that?
Oh, I was 6, yeah, because I saw Eddie Murphy do it, and I thought it was awesome because we had cable. So we saw all sorts of stuff.
Now, you lived in Chattanooga for most of your schooling?
Yeah, we moved out of Chattanooga to the Nashville area in 2019.
Okay.
So we pretty much were Chattanoogans.
So I went online and started looking at some of your videos. They are hilarious.
Thank you.
Let's talk about LSD.
Oh, the LSD, that's the least stressful decision. So that's how my wife, Kelly, and I live. We find whatever's the least stressful thing to do for our future selves. So we look at our past selves, and our past selves can teach us so much about the mistakes that we've made. And so if we can take our current self to be less selfish in life, and instead of doing what's going to help the selfish current self do what they want to do, it's like, what can I do to serve my future self so my future self can be poised to serve anybody that God puts in our path. So that's where Take the LSD comes from. It's just a fun way to remember it. A lot of people don't understand that. They think it's the path of least resistance, and it's not. The best way to think of it is when you get on an airplane and they talk about if the oxygen mask comes down, put it on yourself first, then serve the person next to you. It's the same concept.
So tell me about your wife and your family.
She's my best buddy. We've been married 25 years this year, so she's my high school sweetheart. And we joke about this little thing where my mom got remarried. We got married in 1998, so you don't have to do the math, but my mom got remarried in 2002 to my father-in-law, which technically makes Kelly and I stepbrother and stepsister. On paper, to a child drawing his family tree, it looks like a wreath. So we always had to explain that to the teachers, like he's failing, you don't understand, it's the truth. So we've been married 25 years and siblings for 21.
So tell me a funny story about your marriage.
Oh, well, probably the funniest thing is that my wife can't hear. She's had progressive hearing loss since 2006, and that gets us in a lot of trouble. So we started learning sign language, and we're horrible at it because it doesn't make any sense to do sign language unless everybody else does sign language with you. But we learned the words like fine, which is this, but I don't know if the word fine means the same thing, but in our house, fine is a bad word. And so typically if I ask, are you okay? Like, she'll go like that. So if there's a flare, then she's not fun at all. And of course, your pride gets involved. And that's really the secret between us, is the reason people will say stuff like, you don't know how lucky you are. You all have a great marriage. It's because we put our pride and we put it away. And so if we have a problem, we know that we can speak truth and say, I have an issue, here's the narrative. And that tells the other one, okay, I'm going to listen, and I'm going to ingest what I hear. I'm not going to get prideful. I'm not going to get defensive. And that has been the LSD. So that's how we take the LSD.
LSD. So from your marriage, you have a couple kids?
We do, or nephews, however you want to look at that.
Nephews.
We have two boys, 21 and 15, Mason and Dylan.
Moody, tell me something funny about your kids.
They're my minions. I can get them to do anything. So I could go to some place, and if I think of a fun idea, I could get them to go do it. And they just trust me enough to make it happen. Our neighbor messaged Kelly and said, I had the worst dream. I was on a cruise ship with your youngest son, and he went over the side, and I could have saved him, but I didn't, and I watched him fall over the edge. And I looked over at Dylan, and he was probably 10 at the time. I repeated what happened. And he goes, wow, that's kind of weird. I said, hey, go to the door and just tell her, why did you let me go? And they just walk away. And so he did. It was the best. So I like to mess with people, and I use these little kids to make it happen.
Well, I love how you use comedy in certain situations. And you really talked about you being bullying, and even as an adult, and we're going to talk about that when we come back.